Yeah, I'm on a boat and the pop, it can stop me from copping a new Maserati. Water so bad, she spoiled, she riding, she stepping up, she catch a body. Pay that for leave out the water, the face out them busted out, that can't be modest. Go, nigga get dig, she look at me so like a pilot. Breaking the lead with the mallet, don't get my deposit, I'm starting to write.
What is going on, everybody? We're back again with another session today. Today is a pull day. Similar setup to what you've seen in some of the previous videos, except with some new available options to us. We're gonna sub those in. So the session today is gonna start with some lat work. That's gonna be starting with an overhead movement with the cable lat pull down, into a dumbbell row, into a single arm cable row. And then from there, we'll move into our upper back work with a bilateral row on the prime upright row. And then we'll move into unilateral work on the hammer strength low row. And then from there, we'll go into some rear delts and accessories. So follow along, drop any questions if they come up as you're watching down below. I'll be happy to answer. Otherwise, don't forget to like, subscribe, and let's get into it. Okay, so first movement of the day, single arm lat cable pull downs, or more aptly named, the Gloff pull downs, because Nick Gloff is the one that has sort of popularized these in the past year or two. So when you see most people doing these on Instagram, that's probably because they've seen him do it. That said, if you haven't heard one of his 1,000 explanations on it, I'll take you through it real fast. The way a lot of people would otherwise set up to do this would be sitting in the actual seat as if they're gonna do a regular lat pull down, grab the D handle from there. The issue with that is, if we think about what our lat wants to do, our lat wants to extend our shoulder with our elbow and close to our side. When we set up with that implement pulling us in towards midline, it doesn't really line things up as well as we can if we offset ourselves so we're directly under that pulley, creating a straight line from our shoulder to our elbow to our wrist through the cable to the pulley that it's being fed out of. Other things with the setup, you'll also see some guys just setting up off the side of the seat. Issue with that is it's not going to be very stable. So when we set up in a lunged position like so, what we're doing is creating a couple contact points to keep ourselves stable. First and foremost, we're going to reach over, grab onto the frame of the piece. We also have a contact point with our thigh under the knee pad, another contact point up against the side of the seat, and then my back leg helping me keep balance. And then you'll notice here I can line everything up perfectly. I'm stable, and then I can work from there. Next on the agenda, we have single arm dumbbell rows. So now we're moving into our heavy compound for lat for this session. When you watch me do them, you'll notice, and I've gone over this before in a previous video, the way I set up, I'm setting up ipsilaterally with my same side working leg forward. So when I'm rowing with my right arm, I have a stagger stance with my right leg forward. Main reason I'm doing that, if I set up with the opposite leg forward and an open hip, that is going to encourage me to rotate into the row, which I don't want to do. I want to resist that rotational force that the dumbbell's acting on me. So, helpful way to do that, set up with that hip closed off. It's a lot harder to rotate into the row because the better I can keep my torso fixed, the more tension I'm going to be able to put on my lat, because it's going to be my scap and my lat moving through most of the range of motion opposed to my torso rotating to facilitate getting that dumbbell up. I want 185. They only got 180 or 190, so 190 it is. Yep. Come on. Oh, 1 minute and then we'll move on. So, pairing similar patterns between movements that involve managing load through free space and movements on more of a fixed track, like something with a cable or a machine. So something for us to consider when we're programming is when to use free weights and when to challenge ourselves using machines. Some people might argue that machines are going to be king because in bodybuilding we really want to just isolate or bias certain muscle groups, and it's easier to do that on machines. However, what I would say to that is that there is something to be said about managing load through free space, especially when we're challenging our backs. There's a lot of benefit from getting bent over, holding heavy load, and being able to manage that. If you want a big meaty back, if you want thick erectors, you're gonna have to at some point get off a machine, in my opinion. That said, when we're managing load through free space, when we're relying on our ability to brace, possibly our ability to resist some rotational force, all of those responsibilities put on us is to a degree going to slightly take away from our ability to express output. So if that was the only movements we're going to do, we're still gonna get benefit from them, but there's a chance that we fall slightly short and able to challenge ourselves all the way. So a good way to approach this is to use those free weight exercises when we're fresh and follow them up with a similar pattern on more of a fixed track on something like a machine. For example, in my programming, I will do a single arm dumbbell row with a free weight, but to get the rest of the output out, I'll move after that onto something like a cable row. Likewise, for my upper back, I'll do a bent over bilateral dumbbell row, but I'll then follow that up with a machine upper back row to get the rest of the output out. You can do this with legs, something like a squat followed by a leg press. Leg press, you can do this with hinging, followed by some form of hamstring isolation. So this carries over through programming, and these make really good pairings when you do it right. So keep that in mind. You don't want to shy away from moving free weight just because this is bodybuilding. we still want to be able to manage heavy loads. We just want to be intelligent about the way we do it and the way we program that for ourselves. Moving on now into upper back work. First movement for that is going to be the prime upright row. Probably one of my favorite back pieces I've ever used or ever created, in my opinion. I do have this in my other back session where I challenge it predominantly into the mid-range. So to avoid redundancy, today I'm biasing mostly into the lengthen, which is why most of the load is on top, and then secondarily on the middle pin, which is going to be the mid-range. If you're lucky enough to have access to prime pieces in your gym, 1, you're privileged. 2, you might not fully understand why there's so many loading pins, and I want to simplify that for you really fast. What these basically allow you to do is load varying ranges of the movement. So the top pin is going to represent the length and range. In other words, when you are literally in the stretched position, that is when you're going to feel this pin, whatever's loaded on it, the most. The middle pin is going to represent the mid-range, and that basically means that's going to be present through most of your movement. It's not really going to be biasing the shortened or the lengthened. The bottom pin is going to be the heaviest when you are in the fully contracted position. So in this piece, when I'm at the top of my row, that's when I'm going to feel the bottom pin the most. Now, when should I load which pin? To really make an educated decision on that, we need to understand a little bit of length tension relationships and where we tend to be strongest. So we tend to be strongest in the lengthen range. We tend to be weakest in the shorten range. Now, considering the mid-range of this, or the mid-pin, tends to keep enough load into the shorten, I can't think of many use cases for us to ever really overload into the shorten. If you were to do that, you'd be doing it at the very beginning of your session, or at least the front end, because that is where we fatigue the soonest. So we don't necessarily want to ever be loading the shortened position into the tail end of our sessions. But even then, I'd probably just stick with the mid pin. So then, should we load the lengthen or the min? Or the mid pin? Doesn't really matter that much. But again, it's going to depend where you are in your session. So for me, I'm pretty deep into my session. I'm pretty fatigued already. I'm going to load predominantly for today onto the lengthened, because that allows a drop off into the shortened. And as I said, that's where I'm going to be weakest. So if I want to extend my sets as long as I can, I want to have that natural drop off. So for me, loading into the lengthened with a little bit on the mid-range. If you were to just load on the mid-range because you're not sure, just stick with the mid-range. You're going to get plenty of benefit there as well. So just to reiterate, top pin lengthened, middle pin mid, bottom pin shortened. Have fun, load as you wish. Okay, we've moved on now to a unilateral row, again for the upper back with the hammer low row. A lot of people use this for the lat. However, with the movement path of the load arms, encouraging an elbow path that is going to be really at a greater degree relevant to our torso than what we would want for an effective lat row, it kind of negates the effectiveness of this to bias the lat. However, with that being the case, it's great for upper back rowing, and it's even better when we set up standing to facilitate that. So you'll notice I'm not sitting in the seat, I have the seat all the way down. I'm standing, lean slightly over into that working side, and rowing from there. All right, so most of the back work specifically is done now. We're moving on to a rear delt pull down. We've gone over these before. Main thing though is we just want to keep our scaps in a relatively fixed position. The more movement we get at our scaps, the more recruitment of all the musculature involved in moving our upper back is going to be involved. Remove those as best we can to bias the rear delt as best we can. We really just want to keep our scaps locked in as fixed of a position as possible. So with me, you'll notice I'm lean back slightly, I elevate slightly, retract my scaps, lock them there as best I can, and then just move through the pull down from there. Moving on to laterals on this machine lateral now. We're not gonna waste too much time here. We're just gonna do one straight set into a triple drop. So what that means, I'm gonna do one set of 10 to 12 reps until I fail. I'm then gonna drop, go again, try to match the reps, drop, go again, drop, go again. So 3 total drops, 4 total sets, all the way to failure, plus partials at the end. And really just that one big set, if we call it one set, is all I really need for lateral work today. So let's get into that. Okay, so I started machine laterals. I'm working through my feeders right now, but my shoulder isn't loving it. And being that this is on a fixed track, I'm going to opt to not use this for my lateral work today, even though this is what's programmed in. So this is kind of a good point to bring up because so many of us are on set programs. So many of us are married to those programs because we logbook and we track progress, myself included. However, a degree of intuition is needed with training, meaning right now, I could probably push my way through this and not get injured, but I might have a tweaked shoulder for a couple days if it's already not feeling great. I could do that just to facilitate the fact that it's programmed in my logbook, and that's what I'm trying to beat from last week, but it's not gonna serve much purpose for me that's gonna be productive. So I'm gonna use my intuition, I'm gonna listen to my body and move to a different modality. This is not my only option for lateral work. I'm gonna go over to the cable where I can be a little bit more free in my range of motion. I can get a little bit better into the scapular plane, and I'm gonna see if that works better. So something to keep in mind with your training, doesn't obviously just apply to this, it applies to everything. If you come into the session and something doesn't feel right, and your body's telling you, maybe today is not the day to do this, don't be afraid to move to something else and live to fight another day. Keep that in mind, don't get yourself fucking injured, be smarter than that. What do you know? No shoulder pain. Guess that was the right decision. All right, so last movement of the day. This is typically a cross-body tricep extension where I would have my shoulder internally rotated and moving across my body. My shoulders obviously don't feel great today, considering I just had to make a modification for my lateral. So these probably would feel okay, but I want to play it safe. So instead of demanding more movement at my shoulder, I'm gonna keep it in a little bit more stable of a position, and I'm gonna work through just a tricep extension or a tricep press away. Similar thing here, not gonna waste all too much time moving through these. We're gonna do one straight set into a double drop and then move on. Okay, we gotta go. And that's it for the session, guys. If you made it this far, I appreciate you coming along for the ride. It means a lot. If you found value in this video, I would very much appreciate it if you liked it, if you shared it with someone that you thought might enjoy it. If you have any questions, drop them down below. I'll be more than happy to answer them. Right now, I'm gonna end off with calves. I'm not gonna bother you with it though, so get out of here. We'll see you next time.